there's one way we could easily stop the litigation from being prolonged, like you're saying, and this is the capping of attorney fees. So number one, I took a look at the data of the attorneys that work for the state of Texas. And the highest paid attorney for the state of Texas makes $190,000. I forget what that came down to, like maybe $100 an hour or something like that. Not a whole lot. I think it was in the 90s. The Attorney General for the state of Texas makes, on a 40-hour work week, about $75 an hour. Why do family law attorneys get to charge $350, $450, $550, $650, and what value do they bring? And I think about this like in a medical situation where if you go to the hospital and if you get the bills, and once they go to the insurance company says, okay, bill says $500, the insurance company pays $28. And I really think that that's what we got to be looking at. I think the legislature should be looking at this. They cap, insurance companies cap what they would pay back to hospitals, to doctors, and so on. Pharmaceuticals, we're talking about, capping some of what they can charge. And I think the attorney fees, I think that we ought to be saying with these attorney fees, especially in a situation like with family court, because this is trauma to begin with. I think that these attorney fees are engaged not just in price fixing, but price gouging. So the Attorney General has the responsibility and says that he will investigate price gouging. Like if there's a hurricane and all of a sudden, people are trying to escape from an area and the gas prices go from $3 a gallon to $10 a gallon, that's price gouging. Or, he will investigate that. The Attorney General for the state of Texas, in my opinion, should be investigating the price gouging that takes place in our family courts.
Well, you have parents, and one of the most valuable things to a parent is their children.
Yes, that's
and at a
that's
time
my point.
of a dispute or conflict, that relationship's being threatened, and the parents are in greater need to preserve that relationship. And they're being exploited by what the attorneys charge, because the attorneys know the parents will pay it.
It is price gouging.
Which is price gouging. So yeah, I see your point.
I think the same thing with the child custody evaluator. So we'll say this. I would say, how much does it cost to get married? You have to, a license, if you even believe in licenses, if you do that, is what, $60, $70 in the state of Texas? Not a whole lot, under 100. Why should you have to spend so much money on these situations? And the reality is, the reason you have to spend so much money is because your rights are being deprived from you.
Your child's rights are being deprived from your child as well. So I guess one of the questions that comes to my mind is the state bar allowing this?
Oh, absolutely they are. They're encouraging it.
And is the state psychology board allowing the behavior of Alissa Sherry to persist? I think that there was probably technical issues going on with the previous complaints, so that the previous complaints were dismissed, but I think that a change should occur by that, because if a case is still going on, oftentimes they won't consider the complaint, but I think it's at that time the complaint needs to be considered the most, because it's in the heat of the moment. But I guess the lobbying groups, the psychology lobbying groups have been able to obtain that, well, if they're complaining, they're just trying to set up a conflictual situation, so the psychologist or the evaluator loses their neutrality. Well,
they've already lost their neutrality from the get-go, but anyway.
Well, yeah. Well, I think that needs to be reevaluated. So I guess one of the questions is, how much is the state bar allowing this to occur, and how much is the psychology board, or is the psychology board condoning the behavior of psychologists such as Alissa Sherry?
Now, the other thing I was going to say is that, looking at the state, what the state pays attorneys, the maximum is about $90 an hour. We'll say, well, the state also gives benefits, so we'll give them an extra 50%, maybe. The maximum is $150, and then you also have a cap, like say for insurance. If you have, once you fit your deductible, that's it. And in a lot of these instances, especially when it comes down to no-fault divorce, forced divorce, Why should I have to pay for anything? You want a divorce? Okay, you pay for everything. You pay for everything.
I will say another added comment. I mean, the other side, in my case, has persisted in the litigation.
Right.
And it doesn't take two high conflict parents.
It takes one.
It just takes at minimum one high conflict parent.
Or a person
to
who's
persist.
vulnerable, or a person who can be talked into it by an attorney.
Oh, sure. And, if the main point is billing hours, and you
Main
have
point is
an
billing
unhealthy
hours.
parent that's high conflict, with other high conflict qualities, they're going to exploit that.
Yeah, yeah.
They're going to go along with whatever that parent wants to do. Doesn't matter how damaging it is to the child. And so they're violating an ethical basis of their practice, and they're exploiting the parents' weaknesses and unhealthiness, and they're potentially causing harm to the child.
Yeah.
And I think that needs to be addressed.
Absolutely.
Particularly in the case I'm dealing with as well.
Yeah.
Cool.
David, thank you.